like I can.
Sam Smith, KCHW 102.7. It's Northern Lights Public Radio. Thanks for being along with us this morning, looking at 8:11 right now if you have to be somewhere. A special guest in the studio. We were with you a few minutes ago, kind of warming things up. Of course, today's guest DJ, or co-host, I should say, Mike Bentz. And beside him, I forgot to switch the camera. We'll do it as Mike starts talking. Silas Rappe. So Silas,
pressure on me.
Yeah, that's right. Silas is with TEDD, the Tri-County Economic Development District, out of Colville, serving, is it Ponderay, Stevens, and
Ferry County.
And Ferry Counties.
Yep.
All right. The counties that need it the most.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of stuff that you're working on. Where do you want to start today? I mean, I know everybody's interested about the forest thing, but you got a lot of stuff going on.
We could just dive right into the Carpe. I mean, that's kind of the one that's wrapping up somewhat and probably the best to...
Okay. And explain what it is.
Yeah,
because we throw that term out there and you go, what's that?
It was just a wonderful acronym we threw together, but it's the Chewelah Area Recreation Planning Effort. So, and I mean, it fit perfectly. That
it
whole
does.
seize the
it
day.
Does.
Let's do this. And you know, the whole effort ties in perfectly with what Mike was talking about earlier with the creative district, that idea of the community just stepping up and a number of people coming together and really working really diligently and hard for a little over a year straight to look at our area. Basically, kind of we identified a 10-mile radius around Chewelah, looking at just kind of what the current recreational opportunities are, and then diving into, you know, where are the gaps and where are the needs. Specifically, you know, we did a survey in January, basically January through April. We had a survey that was out looking to capture the community's ideas as far as like what they would like to see when it comes to recreation development. And then, you know, it went above and beyond just recreation in the sense of trails and trailheads and those type of things. But we really wanted to look at also just from the city's standpoint, you know, what amenities are there. You know, we're talking about hotel, motel, campgrounds, RV parks type stuff. We're talking about just basic infrastructure, water, sewer, you know, broadband, different things like that, as well as you know, the different, like the grocery store and what options are there for dining, coffee, et cetera, et cetera. So just really looking at the whole package, you know. So if someone were to come here, yeah, they want the trails to go recreate on, but we want to be able to also get them to come downtown and shop at our stores and eat at our restaurants. And
they got to have a place to stay or a campsite and all that stuff.
Well, and this document, the last time I saw it was still kind of in the finalization stages. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be available to anybody through TEDD.
Yeah. We'll have a spot on our website that'll be available. It's going to be, you know, just the document itself will give you kind of a good snapshot of the area, what's out there, and also in there you'll have a list of kind of the projects that certain organizations have identified that they would like to see, you know, either embarked on or whatnot for the next 6 years. So the city is put in some projects, the Forest Service, and most of the organizations have been able to, you know, the Spokane Tribe, et cetera, have put in kind of a list of priority projects that they kind of almost like a wish list of things they'd like to do. So when you go in and you look at that plan, eventually you'll be able to see kind of some of the wish lists and the ideas and dreams and desires of what we want to do, as well as, you know, the interesting part that I really like is that it's kind of multifaceted in the sense that a business owner, if there's a, you know, young entrepreneur or someone that moves to the area and wants to start a business, they can look at this plan and get a kind of a market analysis, a brief market analysis of what's out there. If I want to get into the recreation industry, well, here are the gaps.
What kind of needs do we have? And they can go, oh man, there's no one renting four-wheelers.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever, renting kayaks and four-wheelers and that kind of stuff.
And even from my perspective on the golf course, when the surveys were completed, it's the first time I ever saw some demographic data that allowed me to start looking at my budgeting process and the marketing plan going into the coming year. I mean, because the surveys themselves were pretty broad-based. Mm-hmm. And I think, remember right, you got a couple hundred of them back, which was, from what I understand, a pretty good return.
Yep.
And so it becomes a tool. I mean, so as running a business, whether it's a chamber or the golf course or the brewery or whatever, excuse me, then now you've got a place to go to that's easy to read. It gives you a format of what the future potentially could take a look like too.
Yeah.
Which ties back into the creative district, ties back into the economic development of the local area. I mean, it was a fantastic piece, and
it's that whole idea of really with trying to see Chwila grow and move forward. The old way of thinking in the sense of we just need some big industry to come in and save the day. It doesn't work that well. We've seen that happen. I mean, you saw Alcoa and it did good.
And what happens when it leaves?
Yeah, and so what we can do in the meantime. Like I'm not saying if there were another something to come and take over the site and do that would be great and it would help drive the economy. But in the meantime, what we can do is diversify our economy and really start looking at the creative district, start looking at the recreational opportunities, start looking at the different things that we can do to create these little niche environments that will drive and strengthen just the economic foundation of the community.
And that way, when you have a company that comes in and you lose 350 jobs all at once, it's not devastating.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really keys into, in my prior life, one of the things I used to do was help people build a business or build an organization. And one of the key drivers I would tell them is you never, ever want more than 10% of your revenue coming from one particular source.
Yeah.
Because if that source dries up and you're 40% or 50% of the revenue, then you're up a creek without a paddle, And so this document helps take care of that. It's a great piece, and I can't say enough for what Cyrus and Andrew and I think John were the primary people that were putting this document together. Mm-hmm. What they did in putting a very readable document together, which is important to me, with a future built into it.
Yeah, that's a good piece because. This is not something that we'd like to just finish and walk away from, and so be it. It's something that we want to continue to readdress and look at, each year or biannually or whatnot, but just so that we can stay really up to date on what's going on in the area and how we can continue to move forward, how we can continue to develop those recreation opportunities that the community desire and will also, bring more people into the area. It's going to be on there. The other piece is that we're going to be submitting this to the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office. They give out a ton of money each year for recreation and conservation efforts. Trails, water park, or splash pad type stuff. All these different things. They're very engaged statewide in helping fund a lot of projects. Right now, some of the current trend is you see a lot of the money going over to the west side, but the west side, they've got the capacity, they've got the resources and stuff to make these projects shovel ready so that when they go after the grant money, it's ready to go, and so that makes those a lot more competitive. So what this plan does is it looks to help build capacity for the smaller organizations, and I use the Chwila Valley Land Trust as a good example because they're just getting off the ground. They got a couple of really awesome grants to help purchase the property and whatnot, but it's a group of volunteers. There's no paid staff, and they're just trying to move forward with their project. So the Carpe work can step and come alongside them and be like, the Land Trust has provided input as far as like projects that they're going to be working on once the property is acquired and such. And so now when this file goes, or this plan goes on file with the RCO, if Land Trust or the Creative District or the Chamber or any of these organizations that work with us, if they need to go after funding for certain projects, it's already on file, and they can go after that without having to go through a lot of the planning process that's already been done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make it easier.
Yeah, it does. And that's what I think what you were talking about earlier is like the Chamber's got listed projects in there. Mm-hmm. The Creative District's got listed projects in there. I know the Spokane Tribe's got listed projects in there.
The Land Trust.
The Land Trust. And so they're already kind of in the headlights.
Yeah.
That's instead of having to start from square one.
Right.
So.
You know, and it just funnels into that building capacity, so that the more we can do these collaborative efforts and these projects that really kind of take us to the next level and help us get prepared to where we are shovel ready, or where we are at a place, we become more competitive, and we're going to start seeing some more monies come over to this side, which is awesome. And RCO and the other organizations that we've connected with and worked with, the USFS and EDA and such. I'm throwing all these acronyms, but they're excited about this too. They recognize that limited capacity that we have, and so they're willing to come alongside us and help and see these efforts come to fruition, where you have the community, you have this grassroots, community-driven planning effort to see what the community needs, rather than someone else from outside coming in saying, we think you need a trail here, or this, that, or that opportunity, and it really doesn't meet the needs of the community. Whereas when we do it from the community up, you know, we are able to give the community what they need first, and then the other stuff kind of comes out of that.
Well, and my perception is also it can be used for private foundation grants.
Yeah.
I mean, so like if KCHW is looking for a grant somewhere, I won't say all, but a lot of the legwork's already taken care of. So you can actually take this document and plug it into your request for those grants.
Oh, wow.
And so
I need some money.
So,
you see this mixing board?
so it shortens the process from what I could see.
Yeah, and I'd like to, we did the one survey that lasted January through April. So, I mean, that was kind of biased towards winter sports, or that wintertime activity. I'd love to see us do another survey maybe next summer that's really engaged in the summer-fall, so we can get a better snapshot of what's going on in the area on a annual basis, rather than just that seasonal. We're coming to the end. I mean, the plan is just about done. I just got the first adoption letter. So every organization that worked with us, so the Forest Service, DNR, BLM, TEDD, the Chamber of Commerce, the Creative District, the City of Chewelah, all these organizations that worked with us were asking to adopt the plan, again, because it just shows that collaborative effort, and then it puts them in the runnings for those RCO dollars and such. But we just got our first adoption letter. We're working on kind of beautifying the plan, because it's pretty much written. It's the information
tweaking, right?
Yeah, and it just needs some pictures and some, a few more graphs and things like that. It just to make it kind of pop. But once that's done, we'll have that submitted and everything, and then, like I said, hopefully next year, or we're still trying to figure that out, but we'll continue to address it, because once it's on file, doesn't mean that it's just locked in there. We can actually we can amend it, we can make changes, we can make additions. Some projects come up and they're like, oh man, this trail wasn't thought of before, but we'd really like to do it. We can make that amendment to the plan, and then right off the bat, you're already that much more competitive going after grants and such.
So these different agencies then have adopted it, like the Forest Service. So by them adopting it, they're saying, we're going to put this into our stream of duties and
not necessarily
abide by it, or how do we get everybody? How do you get it really locked in? So this is the rule. This is what people follow.
It's not, and it never was really like meant to be a policymaker or something that really like set this structure. It was really more to cast vision on how we want to see recreation developed in the area. We want to maintain and hold on to our small town community identity that is just amazing in this area. But also we want to diversify. We want to grow,
right,
build the economy. So like with the Forest Service, the big thing for them is they can take this plan, and now they have a lot of the community voice. They have a better understanding what the community is desiring, so that if they do get some recreation dollars, or with the Chewelah A to Z project that's coming up, they're able to take this document and utilize it as kind of like a guide to go, okay, we have these two projects. This one the community really desires. This one, it's never really been mentioned, but someone brought it up to us. We can actually utilize this plan to say we have data that shows that this one is the more desired trail, and so we'll see what we can do to make that happen. Okay. And with the A to Z project, it's really what kind of spurred this whole effort on. But the idea is, with A to Z Project, they have a contractor that gets the bid to do the forest work, the forest management work. And as they go in and they start doing that, the Forest Service can take this plan and hand it to that contractor, and also be like, as you're planning out your forest management process, with the logging roads and landing platforms and different things like that, keep this in mind. The community wants this, and this, and so if they have a logging road that would fit better, just a little bit, not in the exact place where the contractor would like it, or is the most optimal, but it actually would fit with the recreation desires of the community. They can move that a little bit, and then once they decommission it, they can create a trail, or with the landing area where they load the logs and such. If they decommission that and turn it into a trailhead or something like that. But it just keeps that stuff on the forefront of that planning process.
Like a lot of people like to hike Quartzsite, and the trails are really rough there. So if they were doing work close to that or next to it or whatever, they might be able to tweak it a little. So that area is a little easier for people to access. Right?
Yeah. And it just depends on the treatment area where the A to Z project is going to be, but I mean, there's some, we kind of identified some old historical trails that have kind of gone away, and so if those historical trails are part of that desire, and they actually fit with the forest management plan, then there's a good emphasis that those can be created and brought back to life.
Yeah, and I looked at it as another tool for my toolkit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I looked at it. So for the Creative District, which I don't think I've sent you an adoption letter yet.
No. I said, I got the first one from the Forest Service yesterday. Okay. So.
But basically, what it does now is it's another tool I can use, or we can use as a Creative District, to a variety of things. I mean, maybe justify why we're doing something in the local community, or maybe use it for a grant application.
Yeah, most of those a lot of the grants, one of the big things they ask is they want to know, how does this project you're working on meet a need? And so with the survey, we had over 370 responses, adult responses, and then we had 230 some odd youth responses. So we had a good snapshot, over 600 responses, and which is pretty good for a community of 2,600.
Wow.
And so it lends a lot of so the community really, so one of the things that stood out in that survey was a pool or a recreation center, something along those lines. So now if the city or another organization were to spring up and to go after a feasibility study or the implementation of a pool or a recreation center, when they're going for those grants, they can show that community need.
We've been asking about this for years.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it. We just can't figure out a way to do it yet.
Yeah. And so that provides that that street cred, so to speak, to say see, the community wants this. It's showing that the community desires this. So this is why we're going to go after this grant and seek that project out.
Well, and one of the things that Silas put in there was the youth survey, and I really didn't understand the importance of that from maybe an organizational standpoint. But I can tell you that on the Creative District, one of the things they addressed was diversification, including youth. The new pilot program coming up with the City of Chihuahua and Washington State Department of Commerce, actually, and I don't know if you got that email from Julia, but she's looking for a youth element to be in the meeting on November 12th. And so what they're trying to do is to make sure that people that are considered younger are getting plugged in, and they're not getting left behind just because they're forgotten about.
That's good, because we do interviews here all the time. There's been so many people coming in and that talk about different things in the community, or we've got people from the city, and I always drop that little seed, and I still think it's true. It's like we're not doing enough for kids either. We're doing all this stuff, and we're thinking about arts, and we're thinking about our community and stuff like that. We need to do more for kids.
Yeah.
that needs to be on that priority list.
But it's got to be on a focal point.
Yeah, and I like that they want to involve it too.
Right.
Exactly. It's good.
Well, and frankly, I wasn't even on my radar until I got involved and started hearing about it. So
because for generations there has been no reason for someone's child to stay in Chihuahua. because there wasn't a lot of industry and stuff like that, and that could change. Where I mean, you could do like look at a couple guys now that are past middle. I'm past middle age. Brandon Hansen is coming up on middle age. Sorry, Brandon, but we both left Chihuahua and we're able to come back here and do things.
Right.
So that's really cool.
And that's one of those things with the youth is it's not so bad if letting them leave. Like because you kind of want them to go and learn and grow, but you want to create a place that draws them back. You want them to come back because then they bring that new knowledge or that new life and that experience back into the community, and it just continues to build on it.
Well, and that's when we were through with Chicago. We were like, we got to get out of here. Where do we want to go? And we were like, okay, we had 2 places on our list because we actually were able to travel for a couple years and see a lot of the country. So we had 2 places, and it was the Wisconsin Dells or back to Chihuahua.
You chose wisely.
Yeah, because I got here and like 6 months later, a radio station fell out of the sky and landed in my pants.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Yes.
And so all these projects are lending to that quality of life aspect. They're lending to that. Just the desirability for folks to come back, as we see those recreational opportunities grow and we see infrastructure and different things like that grow and change, the creative district grow and flourish. The land trust, one of the things that we've identified with that is a youth component in the potential for, if this land purchase to go through, one of the things that would be nice would is to see some like environmental education type stuff where you could partner with, whether it's the Forest Service or BLM or some of those experts in their field, bring them onto the site and then bring whether it's a science class or different things like that, and you get them out there interacting with the forest, the natural ecosystem, different things like that. I mean that potential is huge because you expose those kids to whether it's other career opportunities as well as just the natural
I don't know
processes.
if it's still done, but when I was in high school at JHS, there was a forestry class, and we'd actually get to go out in the woods and figure out the board feet of the tree and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it's around anymore.
I don't know. I haven't.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we actually had when I was in high school a forestry class. Yeah, I learned how to, I don't know why I took it because I was in there with most of the farm boys and that kind of stuff, but I wanted to be able to look at a tree and tell how many board feet were in it. I don't know why. So yeah.
No, and it's those classes, those exposures that really, right now you're sitting here recollecting on that, and it's a good.
It made it so I could walk into the woods, and I could tell what kind of tree I was looking at. I could tell most of the plants I was looking at around the area. It was very educational, and one of my, probably the things that stand out when I think back about high school was that forestry class and getting to go out in the woods and do that. So.
Yeah, and so being able to provide those opportunities, I think are going to be huge, just because. Again, like you said, just engaging the youth in different ways and in ways that are really applicable to what we experience in and around this area.
And I think that was Mr. Belzer. So there you go. Credit, Mr. Belzer.
So what else is exciting happening up in your part of the world?
Oh, man. Well, you touched on a little bit the Department of Commerce partnership program with the city of Chihuahua. That is awesome. The fact that
so much going on.
That Chihuahua was chosen, as the east side representative. There's a town in central Washington and then a town on the west side that they're doing this pilot program with, and it's really exciting because again, it goes back to the idea of helping the smaller communities build capacity. So the Department of Commerce came in and we had a great initial meeting just talking about potential projects. We've got the November 12th open house at the Civic Center from 3:30 to 7. That is going to be a chance for everybody. So all of you listening, come to the Civic Center November 12th. In between 3:30 and 7, there's going to be snacks and stuff like that. But come and just provide your input. What they're looking for is to identify basically our top 2 projects that we would like to see tackled in and around our community. So whether that's like, I always go back to it because my recreation background, like a trail going from the city park to downtown or something like that.
Well, and there's some, and there's different, like this collaboration now. The historical district has their historic trail, and I don't. They're working on, I think, trying to find a way to do it with an app, so you can start it. We've actually recorded all the audio for the app. I don't think that they figured out the app plan, and that's expensive to have one created for something like that. So they might be waiting on some funding. I don't know where the project is, but all the stories of the different landmarks have been collected, verified, recorded, all that kind of stuff. And then we went through it and found a couple errors about the history, and we redid them. And so that portion of it's really, and one of the classes at the high school actually walked it, and then the teacher would just play the audio track.
Oh, that's cool.
For each one of them. So that was cool. Yeah.
Well, and the format, from what I understand, is it's not going to be a presentation. There again, it's going to be like a subject matter experts walk in and give your opinion.
Yeah.
Get an understanding of what it is, and then if you've got a wish list, we can't look at it if we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And
and it's that. So we're all of us kind of have a position where we don't like people coming in and telling us how to do things, but this is a chance where we can kind of lend our voice and do things the way we would like to see them done. We can identify the projects that we feel most strongly about and go after seeing those be implemented or worked on, rather than someone in come saying, like I said, build this, and we do a project that just doesn't really do anything to better the community as a whole. And so, that I can't emphasize it enough. Everybody in the community needs to stop in that time frame and just lend their voice, because it should be a good.
And it was specifically set up from 3:30 to 7:30 to be able to catch people that maybe don't want to be out after dark, and those people coming off of their work. And so just stop by and invest a few minutes of your time at the Civic Center, and give us your opinion.
And I've gotten really good feedback from the Department of Commerce on this already. I mean, our initial meeting had a great showing, and very vocal and very engaging. And it was their first, this whole program is a pilot program. It's the first time they've ever done it. And we were the first meeting for them to hold, and it set the bar really high for the other two communities. So,
excellent.
Another beta test.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So I got what could possibly be a dumb question, but tell me, for this particular instance with the Department of Commerce, is this thinking too big or wishing too big? If everybody in town went in there and said, hey, you know what we really need? We need an aquatics health center for the community on this side of the mountain range, so people aren't having to go across our pass to go enjoy that because it's dangerous. We need something like that over on this side here in Stevens County. Is that dreaming too big for something like that?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's dreaming too big, but it is. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
That.
We're talking millions and millions of dollars.
And the nature of the beast is it's one of those things that every community wants, but
how do you do it?
Almost no community can really afford. So I mean, we need to dream big. Like I'm all about dreaming big, because that's how we see change happen, and it's exciting when those things finally do come about. But it could definitely be expressed. We'd love to hear that feedback. It's already something, like I said, that's been identified in the Carpe surveying and different stuff. And there is some work. I know there's a group of people that have come together up in the Colville area, but they're also looking at the idea of a shared aquatic center type thing that would, and so they're reaching out to Kettle Falls. They've been talking with me and trying to get a few more people from Chewela
Well, that's
on
what
board.
it takes. That's what I'm saying. Something that's countywide, centrally located.
Right. Yeah. Well,
so that's
and Chewela's always the perfect spot for that. We're centrally located.
The best spot, right?
Yes, it used to be the county seat. Where they let it go, I have no idea.
So I mean,
the chamber just sent out a survey on that too.
Yeah.
Starting with the aquatic. So if you're a member of the chamber, so take the darn survey.
Okay.
No, and I've TEDD has been serving as the survey central for this, and so I've been able to see, like, every day I get kind of an update on how many surveys, and there's been a lot. I mean, I can't wait to see the final number on the amount of feedback they've gotten from this recreation survey. It should be really eye-opening. I mean, it'll say the same thing that we all know. Yes, we want it, but at the same time, it provides that snapshot of this is the demand and the need of this area. How can we, and again, it could be another beta test type thing where these three, or the multiple communities along the Colville River come together and figure out a way to do something collaboratively for the community, for the county, for the area, for the region. So
I love that.
And that's, so going back to just kind of the irons in the fire, there's, that's what we're seeing from the Department of Commerce. I've been at a couple other, whether it's Avista programs or rural broadband. The rural broadband office is getting going, and there's been some money that has been hopefully coming our way in Stevens County for that. But almost all of these organizations are saying the same thing, and it's how to build that capacity, how to help the rural communities. And I mean, all of Northeast Washington falls into that category, but come together and start figuring out, going through the planning process and getting their ducks in a row so that we can start going after those grant dollars to see some of their projects happening.
So we have and there's probably more, but 3 really big things. We have the Carpe, we've got the Creative District, and we have this thing with the Department of Commerce, which are have Chihuahua's uniquely got them.
Yeah,
right. all 3. Do you guys, because you're really in touch with all these other groups, do you guys see surrounding communities like Colville, Loon Lake, Kettle Falls, kind of focusing on us more and going, hey, how can we help this community maybe be a part of that? Are you seeing some of that? Are people going, whoa?
Well, I haven't seen locally, but I can tell you I've gotten calls and been interviewed on the Creative District from anywhere from South Seattle's Chamber of Commerce to Whidbey Island to Pullman so the word's getting out there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I feel like right now it's more just us getting the word out. I haven't really gotten a lot of folks seeking advice.
Okay. I was just curious, just when we talk about a recreation center for the county, are we seeing collaboration coming from other towns?
Well, and that's and I think TEDD is perfect in the sense that we're an organization that acts regionally, and so me being engaged in a lot of these, yes, I'm a Chihuahua resident, and so I have a little more stake in this process. But at the same time, I also take that back home and say, how can I? So what we're doing for whether it's the Department of Commerce program, I can sit here and I can be engaged in that, and I can see how they do it, and then I can take that and engage that with whether it's Republic or Medellin Falls, or I can take what we learn in this and help to share that and emulate that throughout the region. Carpe, one of our goals in that whole process was to create a framework that could be replicable. So we'd love to. I would love to find that next community that has a desire to do some recreation planning and start find that community champions, find those community partners that will provide that voice of that community, and then TEDD would just be the organization that helps facilitate and bring that to fruition. So I mean it's because there's Colville was chosen as a for another program with Avista, very similar to what the ADO won. So that Northeast Washington is getting some really good recognition and really good beta testing going on, and it's just a matter of learning from that and then replicating it across our region. And really, because rising tide floats all ships.
Well, and you just pointed out 3 different organizations. The Creative District, Carpe, and then the New Approaches, I think is what they're calling they're complementing each other, not contradicting each other. And to me, that's what's powerful. It's not because it'd be so easy to line out my turf and and really isolate each one of those into different silos, but it's not that way at all.
I think there's a lot of growth and change that's happening along that line, and just changing that way of thinking of like we're all fighting over the same piece of the pie, and realizing no, actually we're going to work together and we'll all get a share of the pie type of thing. Like it's that collaborative piece is really cool, and I'm fairly new to the area, like a little over 2 years now we've lived here. But that's one of the things that's really stood out is that I've seen working through TEDD and with the across the region is the collaborative efforts is just mind blowing.
Well, I know
and exciting.
During the previous governor and stuff, the arts took a big hit. There was a few years there where Washington State was just cutting it. You know, we were really in deep stuff, and it's good to see that they brought some of that back with these creative districts, that they're giving communities some help with that kind of stuff, because it really had taken an axe there for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think it's easier to recognize leveraging of the dollars that we get in a smaller community.
Yeah.
I mean, $1 in Chihuahua goes a lot farther than $1 in Seattle.
If you want $1, if you've got $1 and you want it to go really, really far, I'd give it to Diane Evans. Because I watched her turn $700 into like $1,600 or something. So I don't know how she did it, but she did it. So there you go. All right. Anything else you want to cover here as we run? We're coming up on 9 o'clock already. See how you're gonna be late to work in Colville. Just saying.
Oh, it's all right. I got reports to do. It's that time of the year.
Okay.
You know, I would say probably the only other shameless plug that I would put out there is that there's a GoFundMe campaign that I started for the website for the Chihuahua Valley Land Trust. We're working with Laura Ritchie and Mind Meld Creative. She's done a fantastic job. She did the Chamber of Commerce website. She did TED's website.
And the golf course?
Yeah, the golf course.
Yeah, she did
She's
the golf course.
finishing up Rural Resource. I mean, she's done an amazing job. And so she gave us a proposal, and we're out there hitting the ground trying to get some funding for that, because I think, you know, establishing that web presence for the land trust will be huge, and just being that people, you know, if there's questions or interest or anything like that, they are able to finally jump online and start engaging with the land trust in that way.
Excellent. All right. Once again, Silas Rappe from TEDD. Do you want to get out any more information if somebody has questions for you? Is that too dangerous?
No. By all means. Basically, probably the easiest way is to email me, and it's srappe@teddonline.com. So srappe@teddonline.com. You can also go to the TED website and get my information there. But by all means, if you have any questions with Carpe, Land Trust, any of the multitude of things going on in our region, I'd be more than happy to chat a little more. And so give me a call, and we'll make it happen.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in again
thanks.
today. You're that's 2 visits. You're a regular now.
Next thing you'll have a show.
There you go.
Like I said, I grew up in radio.
I was gonna say your dad was in radio.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Once again, Silas Rappe, big round of applause. Yay. Thanks for coming in and sharing. Let's see. Me and Mike, I don't think we're going to be able to come back. All right, we're coming up on 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So thank you for coming in this morning again, Mike. I want to throw out tonight. Let's see, it is Wednesday, so we have bluegrass at 6. Different genre music every night at 6 o'clock. Tonight will be bluegrass. We follow that up at 8 o'clock with our live show tonight, and that's Chihuahua's Doug McQuain and his show Dirt Road Blues. So if you want to dig on some blues music, check out his show. Then at 10 o'clock, it's Paranormal Talk Radio into the wee hours of the morning. There you go.
Okay.
All happens right here on Northern Lights Public Radio. Thank you, boys.
You bet.
It is
Thank you.
KCHW 102.7.
It's the best of Motown. Catch Got Soul with Jeff Newman. Thursday nights at 6 on the Music Education Station. KCHW 102.7.